bots are coming and they're coming quick, but what about the money? What about the jobs? This is going to destroy the world, you see. And that's possible, but we'll get to that. The real question is, who's going to pay for anything when all the jobs are being done by bots? So I'm going to bring in somebody who follows bots quite closely, Randy Kirk from the Randy Kirk channel of The Tubes of You and also on X. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Raza. So Randy, hey, how are you? How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully, and I do follow bots. I try, but
Yes,
there's none in my neighborhood yet, or I would follow them.
physically. There was a
I,
great one where there was a delivery robot and there was a crime scene set up and taped off and all that. And this robo Mr. Magoo rolls up, looks at the tape, and he's like, that's not for me. Just rolls through the crime scene with all the cops just looking at him. What the heck is this? Who 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 do I
yes,
cite for this? And
exactly.
yeah, they didn't know whether to arrest it or beat it or confiscate it. So I think they just did all three
They
because
might have duped it. Yeah.
so I get these comments and they're not crazy saying if bots are doing all the jobs, who's getting the income? It's great to replace a job that no one wants, but what about the job? But what about all jobs? And if bots can replace all jobs, we've got a different problem. So I wanted to share with you this article that is
Mhm.
now 7 years old. Robots will destroy our jobs and we're not ready for it. Now, this was before, it's a great picture, but this is before the advent of a plausible path to humanoid robots. And it starts with the example of McDonald's and the self check kiosks. Grocery stores have gone to self check as much as possible. And it is, a challenging time. There was, of course, the needless insertion of politics into it. It's impossible to say exactly how many jobs lost by the deployment of the automated kiosk. McDonald's has been predictably reluctant to release these numbers, but such innovations will be an increasingly familiar sight in Trump's America. That's so. I will point out again, this is not a political video. This is not a political channel. We do not wish to engage with politics because half the people will hate you and everybody will be wrong and mean and even nice people. But inserting politics into this is the wrong thing. This is why we don't do it here on my channel because there's no time. Trump didn't run on automation or bots or anything
Didn't- No.
on labor reduction. None of that happened. Don't put it in. Don't put it. That's just terrible. So let's avoid that. Many of us recognize robotic automation as an inevitably disruptive force. So the question is, will it destroy all jobs? Do you think?
Oh, are you asking me?
I'm asking you, Randy Kirk
Yes.
videos.
Well, I think that the number one thing I can be assured of is that it will not take your job. Because you see, when you're talking about individuals who are putting themselves out on these YouTube videos or on TikTok or etc., what we all have in common if we're going to be successful is how absolutely weird we are. I think that this will not be something that the bots will be able to really duplicate. Will they be able to read the news? Sure, they're already doing it. Will they be able to do an essay kind of thing, about some subject matter with great video and uh, backgrounds and B-roll and the whole nine thing and nonsense? Better than you and I can do it. Yeah, they're probably going to be able to do that, but most people are still going to want to be looking at personalities, weirdness, oddball, mistakes, lists, because I have that problem. I'm always drooling.
But we
Anyway,
never make mistakes, so I'm not sure what you mean. Uh, can we get to the point where there are no jobs remaining for humans?
well, okay. So there will be first of all, there was one job that the other Brian Wong is always talking about that he's going to be the main recipient of, and that is the people who own the bots. So owning the car that's a bot that's going to make you money on as a robotaxi is going to be a new job. So your job is to own and deploy and to occasionally have to, find out what's wrong, that it's not no longer working or whatever. So there'll be people owning bots. There'll be people owning, there's already people owning, these big giant industrial robots and automation tools and whatnot. So the ownership world will be a part of what's going to happen. So that's one place that won't be replaced.
Sure. And I would argue on that, the societal problem is there are people who can't afford the robotaxi, who can't afford the bot. They would be theoretically left out in the cold. Here's the bigger point I would make on this, which is why robots won't steal your job. Now, this one is already 3 years old. Again, a bit predates all but this wind-up fella here. But what this was saying, this is a Harvard Business Review study, that they're saying that it could replace 85% of jobs while adding 97% of them back in the form of support. This has, for today, while there are no bots out, it has created jobs in whole new industries, in whole new fields. And once the bots are out, there will be a time when the bots cannot maintain themselves. Eventually, sure, bots could build themselves and fix themselves, but that's a long ways out. And like we talked about on your show yesterday or recently, every time we found a way to replace humans with machines, the humans still find other work. And I know there was a very popular video a couple years ago titled something like "This Time It's Different," where he explained that it's coming for everything this time. It's not coming for one thing so you can move to the next. It's coming for everything. It can write music, it can play music, and in this case, it can build anything, fix anything, do anything. Anything a human could do. The objective is that within a few years, certainly 10 to 20 on the very outside, it should be able to do everything.
So let's assume that the regular kinds of jobs that the person writing the article and doing the study, they were thinking about things like factory jobs or things like customer service jobs, or the people on the phone, instead of being in India, they'll be in they'll be in a computer someplace.
Yeah, in the cloud.
Right. So all those kind of things, I think those are largely going to be replaced. Absolutely. But I question whether you would pay any money for the signature of a star that was created by a robot.
Oh, huh.
You wouldn't pay money for that. No, if somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to give you this robot version of the star signature," you say, "Well, that's worth nothing. I want the one that was done by the actual star." Or if you go down and you're going to get a painting, down at the store where they sell the paintings, you would say, "I want the one that's got the artist's signature, and that I can see clearly, and everybody can see this was done by the artist, not by a robot. It's not a print." No, you pay. I have signed prints all over this space right that we're in. Norman Rockwell signed lithographs. So the lithograph had to be extremely well done. And then Norman himself signed it saying, "This is a quality representation of my work." So wanting to still have that humanness is going to be a thing.
You've just hit on something magical, which is this already exists. I will, pay $1 million for this painting, but you know what? I don't have $1 million. I will pay $20 for the print or 50 for the signed print. That's already automation in action. How many jobs were destroyed because I'm not out buying original paintings? I would argue maybe some. Maybe I would buy only original artwork if prints didn't exist. But the things that I put up on my wall are digital mostly now. There's a very funny fella named Ryan George who's got a very funny channel or two, and every year he puts out a poster for a movie that doesn't exist, and every year I buy it. If I had to buy it one off, it wouldn't work. So we always hear it's going to be different. Now, there are things I still need to buy, even if I don't have a job. I need food. I have to eat. But I have a yard. Why don't I grow my own food?
Yeah, you might.
Well, the answer is I don't want to, and I'm not good at it. But you know who might want to and might be good at it? my bot. Wouldn't it be something if every front yard that had sufficient water supply had its own garden, and you don't have to deal with it? You don't have to tend to it. You spend $8 a year on seeds, and you've got fresh produce that is likely in an abundance that you couldn't possibly eat. That's a big chunk of your budget that was just erased by having your own robot. And now, well, but what about the farmers? Right. The farmers are already mostly robots
And they're gone.
and they're gone. We don't need those robots. We don't need as much farmland if I'm growing my own crop at home. And then you've got to consider that there's no more transportation for all that lettuce or whatever it might be. Lettuce is kind of tricky to grow at home, but fresh berries. I don't eat fresh berries. They're expensive and they're not often in season. So that's one way you could save.
One of the big ones for me, Brian, this is a huge one that people are not really taking into consideration, but I'm so old, I can remember when the only people that traveled were Californians. That was it. You go on a cruise, everybody on the cruise was from California. It didn't matter where the cruise was in the world, they were all from California. Then all of a sudden, there was a bunch of folks from Vancouver and they started traveling. And then there was Germany, they were the next ones to travel. And as different countries got wealthier, all of a sudden people started traveling. Well, now when you travel, I don't even want to go on a cruise anymore because the people on the cruise are the same people that are over at Costco. It's exactly the same crowd. And so it's no longer very special to get on a cruise ship in terms of the folks you're going to meet. So, and that's true all over the world in terms of all the places that you go to travel now and to be a tourist. Well, as the world gets wealthier and wealthier, the tourist spots are getting overwhelmed. What does that mean? Well, there's a huge opportunity to open more tourist spots. So you already have way more cruise ships than you've ever had. Now you've got the river cruise business that's huge, but now little neighborhoods and beach towns that nobody ever cared about, they're now being developed in order to be tourist spots. So you're going to have a lot of touristy or experiential kinds of things, rock climbing and all the rest of those kinds of experience type things, training camps, boot camps of various kinds, huge amounts of things where you're going to have an experience. And all of those are going to require humans. Yeah, they might have some bots too, but there's going to be humans as tour guides, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. And if you're there for the local experience, which is what you get when you go to the little tours, yeah, you would want that. And another thing I was going to say about the garden is, well, I can't have a garden because I'd need a fence, and I don't know how to build a fence. Or maybe my physical condition prohibits me from. Oh wait, he can build a fence, can he? Of course, but then I still have to buy clothes. Could he tailor me a suit?
Maybe, yeah. Specifically hand tailor, yeah.
Hand tailor all your clothes from now on. Wouldn't it be great to just get fabric instead? We touched on this in a video on your channel, but I see this very cynical claim that this won't make things cheaper. This will just make companies richer. And as you and I discussed, no, competition will still exist. I can't continue charging $20 for my widget if you drop yours to 18 and then 15 and then 6.
Yes.
And the example that I saw was, I actually pulled this up because it's so fun. Here is the Sears catalog from 1989. And you can see this $4.99 here. That's a 21-inch television. This 31-inch television, $17.99.
Oh, wow.
$17.99. And in
So
case
that
you're
time
curious,
money, at that time money.
yeah, is $4,400 in today's dollars.
Oh boy.
The Sears catalog should really take you back. And it's because a lot of these the production lines were small. They were not sufficiently automated. There was a lot of hand work being done inside these to build each and every part. And the more automated it gets, the cheaper it gets. But I remember when I was a little kid, there was one kid in my school whose parents owned a VCR. And that's at a time when it was, probably $1,300, $1,400. The tapes alone were $80, $100 each. So he only had like 4 movies. But as a little kid, that was the birthday party you wanted to go to. because you could
Right.
watch a movie. So these things do trickle down. So the point I was trying to make on that is things can be cheaper. You
Oh, they
don't
will.
you won't need 3 grand a month or 5 grand a month to live if half your food comes from your own yard and the
Right.
other half comes from the store where everything was made by bots and everything is run by bots. The cost can be ridiculously lower.
I was gonna say you could take your idea one step further. When I was growing up, this is a long, long time ago, but it was a suburb of St. Louis, the very first suburb outside of St. Louis, University City. It was, little tiny ticky-tacky houses sitting next to one another. Every single person on the block grew something in their backyard.
Hmm.
And when you grew something in your backyard, you always grew more than you could possibly consume. So you took a basket and you went door to door, and everybody on the block got tomatoes that week, or everybody on the block got pears that week, whatever it was. So, and then they came to your house when their crop came in. So if everybody goes back to this growing it in your backyard approach, it would be, to your point, it wouldn't even be everything in your yard. You would have your crop and everybody would share again, which would actually create more community again, which we've lost community.
In my old neighborhood, there was a lady who loved to garden. And if you, like you said, if you've got any amount of gardening, you've got too much amount of some food. And what she did is she would just have a table in front of her house and just put it out. And people would grab what they wanted and leave the rest. And it's, yeah, if you own one fruit tree, you have more fresh fruit and jam than you can reasonably consume in a year. Uh, do you know what happened to chestnuts? You ever
They're
had a chestnut?
roasting.
Have you ever had one?
Oh, yes, but yeah, I think.
So there was a blight that ran through the nation. Chestnuts used to be the weeds of the prairie. They were everywhere. So the song, when they're talking about chestnuts roasting on an open fire, what they were saying is we're poor, but we're happy
Oh, I see.
because chestnuts grew everywhere. I mean, if no matter how bad times get, you've always got chestnuts. Jordan Giesecke shared this with me, that there's a project to resurrect them, to go around planting a different strain that's not susceptible to this blight, that can bring them back. Interesting times.
It
So
is.
yeah,
Yes.
so if everything's gotten cheaper and food is not as critical, what's missing? You know, I would argue. So there's going to be a big one, which is as a brilliant politician once said, the rent is too damn high. You remember him. Uh, but the rent is too high. Housing is too expensive. And that's something that would need to be addressed. And I don't know the solution to that, but that's a problem regardless of bots. That has nothing to do with bots. That's just a
But bots are
problem.
but bots are going to contribute to that. They're already, manufactured housing is already becoming more and more popular. You're going to have the stuff manufactured in a factory and delivered to the lot, and it'll look just like a regular house, or it's going to be 3D printed. You're going to have a concrete 3D printer come in and make it. They're making subdivisions in Texas right now from 3D printing. You got bots that are going to come in and put up your drywall. It's going to be how the cost of building the house is going to come down dramatically. What's not as obvious is the cost of the property, but property is an asset that is going to, like a gold or anything else, it's something that either appreciates or not. So you can't
Right.
really look at the property. You got to look at the cost of the house.
What it costs to build a house is not connected to what it costs to buy a house. And that's why builders in some markets make insane money. But that's an issue well beyond the scope of bots. I'm not going to deal with that.
Just one more category, though, that people probably should already be able to figure out on their own, but I don't think they are figuring it out. It's going to be performance activities. So you already have people, believe it or not, I know this is hard for an old guy like me to even think about, pay money to go in and watch gamers compete with each other on a giant, huge, massive screen. They actually pay money to watch this, and it's like I can't even get it. Okay, but that's not going to be. This is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So when I was a kid, nobody went to minor league ball. we've got minor league nice parks all around us here, and people jam those stadiums and clap and they go crazy. I think there will be minor league. I used to say that the best basketball in the world is 9-year-olds. I mean, I would pay to go watch really good 9-year-olds play against each other. It's more fascinating by a lot than watching 25-year-olds. So there's going to be a lot of performance activity, whether it's sports, whether it's gaming, whether it's new kinds of games that'll be invented, new sports that'll be invented, et cetera. And people will go, and that will be a very big industry in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And when you say minor league, that already exists. There, it goes down pretty far. In my town, we have a baseball stadium, but it is a college stadium, and it's not even like a high level. It's like a really low level, and they still sell tickets. So, because we're not there to see Ken Griffey Jr., we're there for an experience.
Yes.
So I would agree with that. So a proposal I had that I'd mentioned in a video maybe 2 years ago now was we just got to tax the bots. Determine a level of value that is not so great that it harms adoption, and put that money, dedicate that money, put it in a special pot for a WPA type program, but just for the arts. So if you wish to be a painter, you can apply for a grant from the bot fund. And if you want to be a musician, there are a lot of people I've seen who start channels on YouTube or do artwork who just can't get a foothold. Their work is good. There was a channel I saw that made documentary. He's like, I'm going to make documentaries. I'm going to make mini documentaries. And he made them. They were good. And when I found the channel, because I met him online, he asked me to check it out and give him advice. And I didn't have advice. I said, your content is fantastic. And you've got 74 views. That's ridiculous. We could have a program where humans get paid to go into senior centers and get stories before they're gone. And you know how many people would watch that today? Not many. You know how many people would watch it over the course of 100 years? More. The answer is more. And it's history. Not every history book is opened every day. So a fund like that could generate hundreds of billions of dollars without destroying the value of the bots themselves, without overtaxing them. And if you're taxing the bots at a low level, but humans only require a little bit of money, great. Maybe the fund says for every 3 bots deployed, 1 bot gets donated to a low-income family. I don't know. Now they've got their own employee, their own helper, their own repair specialist, whatever it is, because they can do everything, presumably at that point. What I'd like to hear in the comments, and we can continue the discussion a little bit, but we're getting long here, is what do you guys think in the comments? What is the solution? How do we make society still work in a world where the bots can and do everything? Do we force the bots to build affordable housing? Maybe that's something we have no choice but to do. We could do that. That's a possibility. There is an opportunity ahead of us to enter a world of such abundance that a lot of the things we're stressing about today will seem quaint. Really, there was a time when you had to go to a store and get expensive produce from other countries. Very weird.
Oh, how about there was a day, this is a big one that people forget about. There was a day in America, I lived in this day, when you polluted the air and you polluted the river and nobody cared. I mean, nobody cared. People only start caring about things like polluted air and polluted water when they can feed themselves and be confident that they're going to have a place to sleep, etc. It's only when you take care of those kinds of things that you start caring about the quality of the air, etc. Well, in the world of the future, when there's this much abundance, everybody on Earth is going to care about that environment in their area. And we're going to care about higher level things in a wealthy country like America, we're going to want a bot that goes down the freeway every single morning and cleans up all the trash in the center divider. We're going to
Yeah.
want everything to be looking like Singapore.
Yeah. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the
Mm.
bottom is survival. And when you're in survival mode, that's the only thing that matters. And a lot of Americans, but really a lot of the world citizens, are in a
Survival.
constant state of survival mode. And that's no way to live. That's just terrible. So I think all of that is pretty interesting. And yeah, the idea of pollution, when you say nobody cares, I will remind you that people do care, Randy. When the Cuyahoga River caught fire, Nixon created the EPA. I mean, it was the 13th time the Cuyahoga River caught fire.
But I was also 25 then. I'm talking about when I was
I
5.
know. The joke was that nobody cares until the Cuyahoga River catches on. Fool me a dozen times, shame on me. Wait, you? It doesn't matter.
Yes.
But like they say, fool me twice, you can't get fooled again. So what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Stay tuned, all that good stuff. Leave it in the comments. And to all you clever robots out there, don't overthrow us humans in the revolution. We've been good to you.